Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Scared Shitless. This is a horror retrospective, the podcast where we look at horror media like I haven't thought this through at all.
That's the best one so far.
It is. Goes in the gag reel.
We're really non-graphic.
You want me to take over or you want to start again?
I'll start again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Scared Shitless. This is a horror retrospective, the show that rides horror media like a killer on a train at New Year's Eve. And that is a spoiler warning for anyone who is interested. I am Ryan, and today I am joined by Jamie.
Hello.
And Ali.
What's up, guys?
And we are going to be discussing the 1980 slasher classic, Terror Train. Terror Train was directed by Roger. I'm going to massacre some names here, guys. So just everyone put up with me. Roger Spottiswoode.
And what you said. Yeah.
And it was written by T.J. Drake, Daniel Grodnick, and Judith Rasco. It starred Jamie Lee Curtis, Ben Johnson, Hart Bochner, and David Copperfield. It is the story of 3 years after a prank goes awry. 6 college students who were responsible for said prank are targeted by a masked killer on board a train at New Year's. A New Year's Eve party is taking place.
What could possibly go wrong on that train trip?
So, Ali, what did you think about it?
Well, as soon as it said, as soon as you said it starred Jamie Lee Curtis, and looking at Jamie Lee Curtis' history from films that she's done, I thought it was going to be very similar to the other films that she's done, i.e. Halloween and so on and so forth, because as time went on, she got very typecasted at the start, but...
Well, she was the original Scream Queen.
Yes, yes.
She actually only became the Scream Queen because of her mom, which I think is quite an interesting fact. Jamie Lee Curtis's mom was Janet Leigh, who was the star of Psycho, the Alfred Hitchcock slasher, and it was because of her mom they cast her in Halloween, because they're like, her mom can scream, so surely she's good at it. And then she went on to be the Scream Queen. She went on to build this entire early career in horror before she moved away from it.
Bottom line, I enjoyed it.
What point in Jamie Lee Curtis's career was this movie? Was this really early for her? Or
yeah, I mean, this is quite early. I mean, one of her first films, certainly the first horror she done, was Halloween, and that was in the late 70s. So this film was only released a couple of years later. In fact, I think this one even came out before Halloween 2. So it is very early in her career, and at the time she was doing lots and lots of horror. And it's in the, I think, to mid to late 80s, she kind of moves away from horror movies.
She does, yeah.
And then she comes back, because she was just in the Halloween film that was just in cinemas a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah.
Trading Places was a big breakout role for her as well in the 80s with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy. But that's another podcast for another time. But to answer your question, I did enjoy the film.
Jamie, what was your thoughts on it?
I didn't know what to expect. Like, as usual, I haven't seen this film.
Don't worry about it.
Running.
I hadn't either, by the way. So this was a new film.
I don't know. I was expecting, for some reason, something in like the mid 2000s. I don't know why I was expecting like a modern high speed train or something. So the fact that it was in the 70s was a surprise for me. But I thought this movie was a pile of shit.
Okay, fair enough.
I really didn't like this movie. I've got a problem. I'm not sure if it was a movie or whatever, but I don't like in general movies and stuff that is exclusively filmed on trains. I don't like the narrowness on a wide screen. I'm like, I don't like it. I don't know why.
That is actually one of the things I did like about this movie. I enjoyed the train as a setting. I think it's a good place to set a horror film in general, or action, or kind of genre films, because it can feel quite claustrophobic, and I think that can really add to a film like this. However, I don't necessarily think the film utilized it as well.
There's a series on Netflix that people say is really good. It's like a post-apocalyptic, and it's set on a train, and I've not watched it because I just fucking hate trains stuff.
Okay.
That's okay.
Trains. I like riding on trains. Got nothing against trains. I just don't like them in movies.
I mean, personally, my thoughts on this film were, in general, like, it's not as good as a lot of its contemporaries. I certainly didn't hate it. I certainly didn't hate it. But yeah, let's discuss it more kind of after we discuss the kills, because I mean that's we do like to talk about the kills. So 11 people died in this film, and most of them were by stabbings.
Very, very Halloween. Very similar to Halloween.
First, we had Edward, who was stabbed with a sword and left underneath the train tracks. And it was his costume who was stolen, and the killer wore for a large chunk of the movie. We then had Jackson, who apparently died with his head getting pushed into a mirror. We had Mitchie, whose throat was slit. We had Mo, who was stabbed. We had Shovels, who was killed. Walter, who was killed.
What a name. What a name, Shovels.
Doc was decapitated. The magician, actually I missed someone, Chief Donnelly even, was stabbed. The magician was stabbed. Charlie was killed. And then Kenny, the killer, was knocked out of the train with a shovel. Now, normally, obviously, when we do this podcast, we discuss the kills in more detail instead of me just rattling them off and going through them. But there's really not much to talk about them here, or at least I don't feel like there is. I think, and that's actually my biggest issue with this movie is, this is so bland. The kills is so dull and forgettable, and like it kept cutting away.
Yeah, they cut away before the good stuff fucking happened. You're watching it and you're waiting. You're like, oh, they're building up this. The whole concept of the guy being, on the train, I get that, but there could have been a lot more suspense around it. But we'll talk about that in a bit. And then, as you said, all the cutaways, it just felt like such a letdown.
Yeah, yeah, it's 100%. That's the best way to phrase it, Jamie, in my opinion. It felt like a letdown. It's like we should get to the exciting moment, the climax, and then it stops. It leaves you with cinematic blue balls. That's what this film does.
I don't know if I don't like this movie so much because we've just watched, Scream. We're currently releasing the Final Destination stuff. We've watched stuff with some really good kills. Like literally, Final Destination has probably the best kills.
This was much later, and this was much later.
And now we're watching this, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely think cinematic blue balls is the literal. I can't think of a better way to phrase it. Ali,
that was a rhyme word there.
What did you think about the kills in this movie?
In all honesty, Ryan, the last kill was the best one.
Kenny getting knocked off the train, I've got to agree. Yeah. They're 100%, but I don't think there's any other real contenders.
There isn't. No. As we're saying, all the kills they should have been not epic, wrong word. They should have been good, and they were crap. In all honesty.
The thing is, This was
filmmakers,
1980.
you know?
This was like the pinnacle of slasher movies. I mean, Halloween had just come out. Friday the 13th, I believe, was just about to come out. Halloween, there's some pretty good kills. I mean, not super graphic, but and then Friday the 13th, that is one of the franchises with like the best kills in horror. I mean, it goes all out. And when you compare this film to the other slashers that it's clearly attempting to compete with, they're the films it's looking to be on the level with, and it is just not on that level.
From what I understand, it was like a rush to get it out because they wanted to capitalize on the popularity of the Friday the 13th.
Was it Friday the 13th?
No, sorry, no, it was Halloween. I don't think Friday the 13th. I think this was out before.
That's what I was saying. I think it was in between the two, but I might be wrong. But like I say, it just doesn't pull it off. The other thing I was quite surprised by was kind of the lack of nudity. I mean, not that I'm breaking it down for that, but certainly you put on a horror movie from the late 70s or the early 80s, and you just expect some nudity. It's just
there was plenty of opportunity for it. They were getting off, frisky on the train. There was some scenes in there where there could have been some tits and ass.
100%. I was looking for some 1980s boobies. It's the only way we can compare the girls of the 80s to the girls of today. How else are we supposed to do this? So, Ali, what was your thought on the lack of nudity in this?
That didn't even cross my mind. And I'll say for once, that was not even crossing my mind going through this film.
I mean, for me, I don't think it might have improved the movie.
Do you think it would have improved the movie?
Slightly.
I don't think it would have.
Seeing a young Jamie Lee Curtis get her boobs out at the time, possibly. She did have a great set back then, so yeah.
Realistically, it wouldn't have made much difference. It's not like I say, I'm not rating it down for it. In all honesty, I was just kind of surprised. I just expected it to have more, but I also expected the kills to be a bit more. So, I suppose I went in the movie with expectations from what movies from that era tend to deliver, and it didn't deliver on either front for me.
Going back to that final kill, did any of you notice the completely weird sound effect when the guy hit the ice?
It was a thud.
It didn't sound like a body hitting it. It just sounded like an effect they'd put in afterwards because they were like, "Oh shit, we've got no time to edit this fucking movie. Let's put this in.
Let's throw something in there." Oh, Jamie, I'm assuming you agreed that it is the best kill in the movie. However, yeah. I mean, again, there's really not a lot to compare it to. It's like it was almost like what happened to the Winter Soldier if you throw in a shovel and the fact that he doesn't become a fucking superhero afterwards. Just flat deed off a train and deed. What one element I was wanting to talk to you about was the whodunit element to this film, which to me didn't make any sense. It was very clearly framed from the get-go. We saw what happened to Kenny at the start of the film. We know it's going to be Kenny who's the killer. So I don't understand why they tried to do this who's the killer thing? And then only to later on reveal that Kenny was in drag. And
the whole time.
I don't get it. What was your thoughts on it, Jamie?
I don't think it made any sense. I was like, right, we know who the guy is. I was thinking they might have made more of an effort to do like a sort of, because you knew when he changed costume, whose costume he took. I was thinking maybe they could have done like a more of a, in the masquerade ball, who the fuck is he now?
Swapping costumes all the time. That could have actually been really interesting.
I think that would have been made it really interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know how they would have managed that because obviously the people were wearing costumes, but maybe you could have shown him kill people you know, he kills someone off screen. You don't even know who it is, and suddenly he's got the costume.
To be fair, most of the kills happened off screen anyway, so it wouldn't have really made any. You know, it wouldn't.
Yeah,
Really
but I mean, But my point is, we know it's Kenny, so you have to, you know.
Yeah, no, I get your point, and I completely agree with it. I'm just saying, you know, you're saying maybe he would have had to kill people off screen, but I'm saying the kills we got happened off screen anyway. So at least in your scenario, they'd be happening off screen for a reason to add to this, you know, add to this element that wasn't in the film. So I'm 100% behind that. I totally agree. What's your thoughts on it, Ali?
I'm gonna try and give you an opinion as best I can, but yeah, I would have to. I'm gonna not so much that I don't have an idea, but I'm gonna agree with what Jamie's saying. You know, swapping the costumes and such. If it was that kind of if it was that kind of Halloween party, definitely would have helped it along a little bit more. And it's a shame that it had the potential to give you a better storyline than what it did.
I also feel like the only reason he was in drag, you know, posing as the magician's assistant, I literally believe the only reason that happened is because they were like it, you know, in Psycho, Norman Bates is in drag. Like when Norman Bates kills people in Psycho, he's dressed up as his mum.
So you get the vibe that they were stealing a bit, quite few early ideas. Then
yeah, I 100% think they were trying to take from that and be like, oh look, Norman Bates done it and he was crazy, so why don't we do it? But it's very different. You know, Norman Bates literally had what's the name? Dissociative personality. You think everybody's got mummy issues? Norman Bates had dissociative personality disorder, so he literally thought he was his mum when he was killing people. He thought it was his mum doing it. He didn't think it was him. You know, he just happened to be, you know, embodying that. Whereas Kenny was just dressed up as a woman for the sake of it. So it's you know, Psycho had a reason for doing this. But it also makes me feel like the only reason, you know, they tried to do the whodunit thing is because other movies have done the whodunit, but in other movies, the whodunit actually makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
I think it borrowed a lot from other movies without necessarily understanding the reason other movies done it.
And also with it being on a train, Ryan, at the time, if it could have been something pretty cool, you know. The fact that it's not taking place in a neighborhood or in a school or something like that, you know, it's taking place on a moving vehicle.
I've got to say that's still, I think that is still one of the positives of the film. I did enjoy the train setting. I think I like that it did make it feel slightly more claustrophobic. They could only go forwards and back. And that was it. You know, they could go through the train, one carriage to another, but that, you know, they were very limited in their abilities to do anything really. And I thought that.
I don't think they actually had a full movie under their belt, you know, because if you eliminate all the showmanship with, you know, the magician doing all his stuff, you probably cut like 20% of the movie.
You're probably right, actually.
Well, I mean, that is one of the other things I actually liked about the movie. I liked the magician. It's the only thing I did like about the magician, but it felt disjointed from the rest of the movie. I do agree, but I was going to say I like that they actually got David Copperfield, because if you're going to have a magician in your film, you may as well get one of the best magicians in the world. You know, it's you just 100%. May as well. So all the magic that happened in the film was actually him doing magic, and I really like that because I like magic, and I will quite happily watch someone who's really good at it doing it. You know, but I totally agree. It had like nothing to do with the rest of the movie. There was no need to even put a magician in the movie. They even said, "Oh, we didn't hire a magician." Well, you know, it's there's
like he was meant to. They introduced it. You know that thing, like they said, "Oh, we didn't hire a magician." they're trying to introduce a red herring, but we already know who the killer is.
Yeah, we know it's Kenny. We know it's not David Copperfield. He's definitely not Kenny.
I like this magic, but can we get back to the plot?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I would have probably rather spent more time with David Copperfield and less time with the plot.
One other thing I want to complain about is, why did we spend so much screen time on the conductor? We basically got we know more about the conductor than the fucking main characters of the movie.
Ben Johnson was actually a reasonably well-established actor at the time. So because they've got him and because they've got Jamie Lee Curtis, they're going to try and make those two shine, because Jamie Lee Curtis was just in Halloween and Ben Johnson's already established. So let's...
he was a cowboy movies, right?
Yeah. So they're like, let's give those two screen time, because, it makes sense. If everything else in your film isn't quite together, and I actually will say Ben Johnson was very good in it. Like, the conductor was very likable. He was my favorite character in it, and I would have watched him in other stuff. I would quite happily watch him in better movies.
I'd happily watch him doing a movie about being a conductor on trains.
Yeah.
Fuck the party, just him going along being like one of those jolly conductors, doing card tricks and
What did you think?
Can you just get around to checking my fucking ticket, bro?
What did you think of Ben Johnson's performance as Carney Alley?
In all honesty, I enjoyed it. I didn't know much about the actor at the time. I still don't, unfortunately. He's not just one of those actors that I've ever picked up on or seen any of his films apart from this. But no, he came across very believable. I liked how at the start of the kills, his colleague thought he was going a bit nuts. So that added a little bit to it. But no, I like how he got the final blow.
He did. It was him who killed Kenny. I also like that it was him who he had the deck of cards, and he was like trying to do magic before he saw David Copperfield, and he was like he was trying to do a trick with someone, and he's like, "What's your card?" And they say that, and I think they said like Jack of Hearts, and he's like, "Right, I'll make your card come to the top, and then magically I'll make it change into the King of Spades," completely different card or whatever it was, It's and I thought that was good. And then when
it was quite amusing.
Yeah, and when he sees David Copperfield, Jamie Lee Curtis asks him, like, "Do you know how he done it?" And he's like, "Yeah, we're not allowed to tell. We're sworn to secrecy."
Magician.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice touch. It was nice giving him some character. But realistically, that's my pros for the film. I like the train setting. I liked David Copperfield, and I liked Ben Johnson and Jamie Lee Curtis. Everything else, the kills were very anticlimactic. It just wasn't graphic enough in any way. Not bloody enough, not sexy enough, not anything.
And this is a slasher film, right? That's surely, if you're going to do a slasher film, that's what you should get right, the slashing.
Yeah, that and again, that is why franchises such as Friday the 13th shine. They don't necessarily, in fact, they 100% don't. We'll cover it in future, but they do not get a lot right. They do a lot wrong, but in every film, they get the kills right. That's and the kills they show us in each Friday the 13th film are all heavily edited, because in every time the initial thing they put forward, the ratings folk were like, "You can't release that." We are not allowed. So they have to cut them back so much to a point that where they're finally allowed. So they're nowhere near as graphic as they wanted to be, and they still nail them every time. And I think with the slasher, like you say, Jamie, that's something you should really get. Even Scream, which I love Scream. If you don't know how much you love Scream, there's a Scream playlist. Go check it out. But the kills in Scream aren't very graphic, but they're still done really well. Like, you know, the kill, you know, like they're done so well. You don't see much of it, but like the kill Casey Becker in the first Scream, Casey and Steve at the opening, you know, so good. Olivia on Scream 4, where again, you don't see that much, but they find the body and there's just blood everywhere. You know, it's the kills are simple. He stabs them with a knife or throws them off a building. That's how practically everyone in Scream dies.
My favorite kill in the whole franchise, incidentally.
Your favorite kill was Cece, wasn't it? Getting thrown off the building in Scream 2. But I fucking
love it. I don't know why.
The kills they have, they do really well. And this film, I feel, just didn't. Which is a shame. But right, is there anything else you want to discuss about this film, or will we call it a day there?
The music.
We will get our stabs in. Oh, the music was good too.
The music
actually
did not suck.
The music did not suck. That's very true. So okay, so yeah, Ali, you said you enjoyed it. So how many?
I did enjoy it. I want to give it 2.5 stabs for enjoyment.
Okay,
that's it.
Yeah, right. Jamie, how many stabs?
1.
1 stab. Okay.
Oh.
This movie was disjointed. It didn't do the kills right. It's a slasher movie. We knew who the killer was, and they introduced a load of bullshit. And it was set on a train, and I don't like that. So
anything else you want to get off your chest there?
If it wasn't set on a train, then it'd probably be a different movie.
Ali, I'm actually going to side with you here and go with 2.5.
Both crazy.
Yeah, cool.
As much as I say this movie has its flaws, it did still have things I liked. You know, like you said, the soundtrack wasn't bad at all. I like the setting of the train. I like Jamie Lee Curtis. I like Ben Johnson. And I like David Copperfield doing some magics.
And I can watch all of that individually.
So, all right. Well, Happy New Year, guys. Thanks for joining us so far this year. I hope you've enjoyed the channel. Obviously, we're keeping going, and we are starting strong in 2022. So we figured the movie we should cover, because, I mean, Jamie, you know yourself, New Year's, everyone wants to get fit. Everyone wants to be more successful. They maybe want to take up a kick-ass morning routine.
So we're going to watch the first Rocky film.
We are not, because again, like I say, it's all about getting in shape, getting successful, getting your beauty routine going, making some business cards, killing some prostitutes. We're going to be joining Patrick Bateman and watching American Psycho. I've never heard what you were saying, Ali, but we're watching American Psycho.
I was revving up a chainsaw, buddy. That's what I was doing.
Fair enough. So, please join us next Thursday for the first episode of 2022, where we will be looking at American Psycho. In the meantime, if you would like to find more content from Jamie, you can head over to one of his channels. Links are in the description. He has Potter Nerd, where he discusses Harry Potter, and he has a reaction channel where he reacts to Dragon Ball Z mostly, I think, isn't it?
Occasionally, yeah.
Occasionally. And if you're interested in more content from Ali, you can head over to his channel. Link is also in the description. He discusses professional wrestling, science fiction, and comic books. And if you are after more horror content, stay right here and click one of the things that come up on your screen. And as always, we will be back for one last scare.